Hello! Today we are looking at Salvation, a short story by R.M. Archer. This is a post-apocalyptic story, around 1,500 words long. We are going to read through first, and then I'm going to offer some critique. Right. Stepping back from the work table, I clap a hand on my assistant's shoulder. It's finally done. My life's work is completed. This is it, my friend. This will be humanity's salvation. Salvation, as I've named her, is a genetically engineered quadrupedal reptile with wings and the ability to travel transdimensionally. A dragon. How? Metal scrapes as Fate tilts his head at me. I'll have to oil that joint. Once she grows big enough, she'll give us access to another dimension where we can rebuild. Salvation blinks her big golden eyes at me and purrs. I smile as I pick her up. Her scales are soft under my fingers, but they'll grow hard in a few months. Maybe weeks, in this environment. Soon she'll feel just like my other creations, but she'll be the only one that lives and breathes. She's my crowning achievement in so many ways. I set her on my shoulder, and her claws dig into the acrylic of my shirt. My combat boots clang against the metal floors. I walk through the hangar, calling for updates from my other inventions. Good morning, Destiny! How's the packing coming, Truth? Radar update, Faith? Still blank, Master. I still haven't programmed her to call me Simon. Thank you, Faith. Simon! A small droid jumps in front of me, the most lifelike I've been able to build. I grin and pick her up, twirling her around once before settling her on my hip. Good morning, Gracie. How was your evening? Destiny taught me to play cards. Oh, really? That sounds fun. Did you do any charging? No. You're gonna fall asleep if you don't charge. I know, but Destiny didn't tell me to. That's not good. That means her programming faulted. It could be nothing, but... I set Grace back down and take her hand. How about you come watch the sunrise with me and then go charge? Sound good? Grace nods and we head for the hangar gate. I press the code into the keypad when we arrive and the heavy doors slide open, their grating accompanied by the beeping alarm, allowing in the first bit of sunlight for the day. The sun is barely peeking over the gray horizon, dimmed through the perpetual haze of dust and ash. I look up at Salvation. She's sitting still as a statue on my shoulder, watching intently as the sun creeps further into the sky. As it rises above the horizon, Salvation's eyes seem to glow in its light. I smile. She looks the part of humanity's savior. I glory in the moment half a minute before I remember Destiny's programming fault and tap Grace's hand with my thumb. All right, to the charging port with you. I'll see you when you're done. Grace lets go of my hand and runs back inside the hangar and into her bedroom. When I follow, I close the gate behind me and set Salvation on the floor. Fate, oversee Salvation. Fate nods, and again there's scraping of metal on metal. I step into the kitchen, where Destiny is whipping eggs for breakfast. I come behind her and set my hand under the bowl before clicking the switch on the back of her neck, then catch the bowl as it falls and set it on the counter. Taking a screwdriver from my tool belt, I pray to the gods that have abandoned this planet that it's just a glitch. A broken wire, a disconnected circuit. When I open up her control panel for inspection, however, there's nothing visibly wrong. I curse. As I close her access port, I think through the problem. She should have sent Grace to bed at 10 p.m., but must have been blacked out. Neither she nor Grace would have noticed, just rebooted and moved on. Were the others affected? Fate was with me while I worked on Salvation all night, but I was paying more attention to Salvation than to the bot. He could have blacked out while I was distracted. Truth was probably still packing. That leaves Faith and the radar. I put away my screwdriver and click Destiny back on. She returns to the eggs, and I head for the radar room. If the blackout was widespread, the radar would have gone down too, so I should just have to check the logs. Master, there's something approaching. Well, that's not what I was expecting. I look at the radar. Sure enough, there's a blip approaching from the east. A large blip, moving fast. I curse again. Forget the logs. This is happening now. My first thought is for Grace, but my concern quickly shifts towards Salvation. In the case of things going south, Salvation needs to remain safe. She is all this world has. Faith, man the security controls. Make sure no one enters without my permission. Yes, Master. I open the gun cabinet behind the radar desk and grab my automatic. It's fully loaded. Good. I slam the cabinet closed and padlock shut before heading back into the hangar hallway. Fate! There he is, following Salvation as she toddles down the walk. Fate's head screeches around. Yes. Take Salvation to the bunker. Don't come out until I say so. Fate grips Salvation around the middle and the dragon squeals. I imagine his metal fingers aren't a comfortable carrier, but there isn't another option right now. Grace is the only other bot I want to save. She is charging. Is she safe there? Something screams overhead, something big enough to shake the hangar to its foundation. It's here. Whatever it is, it's here. There's no time to worry about Grace. I cock my gun and take position with it pointed at the hangar gate. A moment later, I hear the scream coming from the back and a massive crash as the entire back of the hangar is crunched. I jump and roll away from the thing's path, through Grace's doorway. I risk a glance back at her, resting in a charging port I designed like a crib. She's peaceful and quiet. At least she won't know if she's destroyed. Whatever it is stops at the hangar door and I scurry to the side, hopefully out of the thing's sight. I can tell from the sounds of the crunching and breathing that it must be turning this way. My heart pounds. I'd close my eyes and whisper a prayer if I weren't afraid to miss seeing the thing. I can only hope that fate and salvation are locked securely in the bunker. A sudden thought makes my heart sink into my stomach. What if there was another blackout? Fate could have failed to get Salvation to the bunker. He could be fallen in the hallway, leaving Salvation to wander out in the danger zone. No, 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 no. Another thought and I feel like my heart is going to stop. Why hasn't the thing attacked yet? Everything has gone quiet. I can't hear the thing breathing. There's no metal crunching, no whirring of engines. I'm about to peer into the hallway and see where the thing went when it erupts through the doorway and I scream. A scaly body fills the room and smashes itself into Grace's crib. My heart is pounding as I raise my gun and start shooting, but the bullets ricochet and I quickly stop, afraid I'll end up shooting myself. The thing turns a golden eye on me, the iris easily the size of my entire body. Recognition spills through me and the blood drains from my face. My vision goes spotty. It's a dragon. A real dragon. I collapse, and the last thing I feel is my head slamming against metal. Buzzing fills my ears as I open my eyes. The dragon is gone. The room is demolished. Grace is smashed. Salvation! Salvation! I get up and run halfway down the hangar before dizziness catches up to me, and I have to lean against the wall and close my eyes. I wait for the throbbing to subside before continuing toward the bunker. I pass Fate, collapsed in the engine room, and my hopes sink. Moving on, I find the bunker hatch wide open, completely untouched. She's got to be around here somewhere. I search every room in the hangar, calling her name, searching for her teal scales, listening for her screeching or purring. I think I hear her a couple of times, but my hopes are promptly dashed when I run into an empty room. No Salvation. She's gone. The dragon took her. I collapse next to Grace's crib, leaning against the mangled piece of metal and allowing myself to sob. My droids are dead. Grace is beyond repair. Salvation is gone. This wasteland hangar is all I have, and I am alone. When the despair has left me numb, I take a deep, ragged breath and look at the demolition across the hall. Eyes wet, I grit my teeth and clench my fists. The dragon will pay, and I will get Salvation back. I snatch up my gun on the way out of the hangar, step into the blinding sunlight, and stride east. I will not abandon humanity's salvation. All right. So first things first. Opening line. I don't find this terribly compelling. A general rule is not to mix actions since it's difficult to picture multiple actions at once. Stepping back and clapping a hand, it's obviously a person can do that. Reading it like this can be difficult. It's obviously not a hard and fast rule. I'm sure you have a million examples of people who can do it very well. I'm sure you can do it very well. I don't think this is terrible. The opening is a line that really, really matters, and I find in lines that really, really matter, it's more important to hold to the rules unless you're doing it specifically to call attention to the fact you're breaking the rule. Aside from that, the opening is providing us with nothing concrete except work table. The implication is then the story revolves around Simon's life's work, which it does, so good job in that respect. I suggest you clarify earlier what Fate is. I initially pictured him as a dragon since that's the only description we have yet received of him. Let's see. Why is it that this environment is particularly conducive to raising dragons. This would be a great opportunity to introduce the setting. At the moment, we're just in a blank room. We've got a work table, we got a dragon, we got fate, we got the narrator who we know really nothing about. So taking just a few moments to explain why this environment would be good for raising dragons would give opportunity. I didn't say this earlier. We're focusing on descriptive opportunities right now. In that line of thinking, describe the hangar. Right now, we have a narrative camera following Simon closely, almost over his shoulder. Throughout most of the story, you're gonna get value out of starting zoomed in and then scaling out to get a shot of the hangar in its state, with robots packing, etc. Give us a sense of urgency or joy or whatever the situation, whatever you need to convey, as well as shapes, appearances, sounds, and movements of the robots. Then you can zoom back in once the reader knows where we are. The word droid, I believe, is intellectual property of Disney. Just be aware of that if you are planning on submitting this anywhere. I would appreciate more time spent describing Grace. I figured out later most or all of these droids are humanoid, at least I think I figured out. On first read, I didn't really know how Grace was any different. So a decent amount of the story focuses on the programming and functionality of the droids. I only know a little bit about programming and less about robotics, so please bear with me as I make a feeble attempt to act like I know what I'm talking about. It feels likely that a programming software bug would be the issue with Destiny. I imagine the program says, when something happens at this time, I don't know, 9, tell Grace to go to bed. And this also makes me wonder why Grace wasn't programmed to go to bed herself. Is the implication she has better AI, so she can't be commanded to do things at certain times? Is she supposed to be learning by experience while someone like Destiny would have to be programmed to do it? Nice little joke there with Destiny being the one specifically having to work on programming. That's funny. For something so minor as missed timing, I wouldn't think someone as knowledgeable about this as Simon would be banking on a physical issue. Something like a cable not properly connected would be causing catastrophic failure beyond just a little blip in timing. Is there any error reporting in the robot software to log issues that come up so that he can come back and see them later? That seems to me to be something that would probably be put in by somebody who's a kind of mad engineer scientist-y guy as Simon is. The blackouts confused me. Blackouts. It seems hard to believe. Are all of the robots plugged into a generator that's been known to blackout? Have blackouts like this been happening recently? Is there some kind of environmental electromagnetic something that just disrupts them? If it's affecting more than the droids, would whatever equipment Simon used to work on Salvation have gone down? Why is it that they just reboot and go back to normal operating procedures if nothing happened after the blackout? What happens to the lights inside this warehouse? He's either under the ground or working at night. If there was a blackout, wouldn't that have interfered with whatever he was doing all night? It's one of those things where I'm sure you have it clearly pictured in your mind how this all works, but as an outsider, I can't see that clearly. I would suggest you extrapolate more on that. It seems like these blackouts might be of setting significance. If that's the case, you definitely want to expound on them. By the way, I really like the literal charging cradle for Grace. That's funny. So the dragon is coming. This is an area where you really want more description. Oh, and while we're at it, crunched is of lower formality than a lot of your surrounding voice and word usage. It's almost like childish word. I would suggest changing this to something a little more formal. But most of our description we get of the dragon attack is the scream coming from the back and a massive crash as the entire back of the hangar is crunched. So there's a scream. I do not know what kind of scream this is. This could be the scream of a robot, of salvation. This could be the scream of the gigantic dragon. Massive crash likewise doesn't tell me much aside from that it was the big dragon who did it. But I don't know what that sounds like. I don't know what Simon's feeling is as that digs into his head. This seems like a really cataclysmic sort of impact, and I'd like to see some more description of that. There's that. The charging crib. Nice. Whatever it is stops at the hangar door. That's another thing. I had thought the thing had smashed through the hangar. So is this just the door to the room, or was it outside and now it's trying to get inside? I don't have a clear picture of what is happening in the scene. This does work, this here. From the sounds, it must be turning this way. Maybe describe the shifting of the sound. In general, that this is the kind of specificity you want to be pointing toward. And this is, again, the blackouts. They are pretty central to Simon's worrying. It feels like there's a history to them, and that maybe he's not being terribly rational as he thinks about them. This would really be something to expound upon. So Simon says, it's a dragon, a real dragon. Recognition spills through me. What is Simon's relationship with dragons? Why doesn't it seem immediately likely to him that this giant, flying, monstrous danger attacking from the outside would be a dragon? Where did salvation come from? I had assumed from earlier on Simon had stolen a dragon egg or something, that when something big comes and attacks, it just seems logical to me. Well, yeah, you've established there are dragons here. It's something big moving quickly. It probably is a dragon. It seems odd to me that Simon would be surprised by this. Did he just make a dragon from his imagination? Did he just create this trans-dimensional creature and just make it happen to be in the shape of a dragon? I don't know what sort of length you're trying to fit this story into. An additional 20% maybe of little bits of backstory about the blackouts, about the dragons, would, I think, be useful. So Simon is coming awake. Grace is smashed. Salvation has been taken. This is the worst thing that could happen. It's terrible. Poor Simon. It makes me wonder why Simon is alive. The dragon smashed Grace, but it left Simon. Does it hate technology? Is that why we're in a post-apocalyptic world? Is that why there are blackouts? Are dragons just destroying all the technology? Why wouldn't it have killed Simon? He was right there. It also seems odd in a setting where we have sort of artificial intelligence like this. It says Grace is beyond repair. It seems odd that he wouldn't have a backup or anything of Grace's memories or the others? Why are all of these droids beyond repair? It doesn't seem proven to me that all of his resources are depleted, and yet Simon is snatching up a gun on his way out of the hangar, stepping into the blinding sunlight, striding east. He seems to have a plan that I am not aware of. He knows his gun won't work against the dragon because it was bouncing... Was it bouncing off earlier, or was it just ricocheting inside the chamber? Yeah, that's not clear. I would like clarification of that. Are his bullets ricocheting off the dragon's scales, or is he just failing to hit the thing? Either way, it seems odd. He has a gun cabinet. He's just taking a gun, one gun, nothing else. He's taking no additional ammunition, no supplies, no anything. And he's just going to fight a dragon and get salvation back. Maybe you get value out of letting some time, like a couple of days pass, in which he tries and fails to restart his work. He tries to get the droids back up and it's just not working. He realizes he can't just go back to normal, and that his only hope is to go back after salvation. That might be a bit more believable than someone as smart and resourceful as Simon just running out into the wilderness with a gun to try to kill a dragon to get his little dragon back. Otherwise, it kind of feels like he's just running a suicide mission. And I feel like there's a symbol behind salvation being taken. Like, the dragon will pay, I will get salvation back. That seems like there's some kind of loaded meaning there. If not, that's fine. That salvation is named salvation, that we have all of these, well, fateful names for the robots. It feels like I'm supposed to be reading something to this. If not, perfectly fine. I'm not terribly bright. I could just be missing something. My final thought. A definition of description is to convey in words the attributes of a thing. Improving description here, I would like to see more senses used than you currently have. Take some of the key things in your story and apply additional senses to them. For example, we do not have any sense of smell used, I don't believe, in the story. Especially when the dragon comes. You describe the kind of stench that fills the little room in which Grace is. Not even necessarily the stench. Maybe the dragon smells sweet. Maybe the dragon smells like cinnamon. I don't know. Just a couple striking instances of smell. You're describing the acoustics of different parts of the hangar would really help flesh things out. And that is the last of my thoughts on Salvation by R.M. Archer. Everybody give R.M. Archer a big hand for being my guinea pig. It takes a lot of courage to share something in public, just for people to see in general. It's even hard to share for a small private group, let alone putting something out on the internet. If you have any uplifting and helpful comments for R.M. Archer, please share them below. Thank you very much for watching.